This video, I want to give you an overview of the MLA style guide GPT that I created. So this should have information within it, source information about MLA style. That's the way I created it. And while I cannot make any guarantees, that's the way it should work. So to get to this, by the way, if we are in week 11, preparing your annotated bibliography, there's a thing that says MLA Style Guide GPT. You can click on that and it should take you here. Now, I know that last time there were some people had some issues where uh, you had to, you can only use it for so long because it reverted you um, to the free version, and then it said that this wasn't available in the free version. Um, but I'm hoping that you'll have enough free usage out of this that you can still use it. Um, and if not, you should be able to do similar things with a regular Chat GPT, though it may not be as focused. So you might have to do a little bit more prompting. Anyways, so what can we do with this? Well, one of the things that you're going to need to do for your annotated bibliography annotated bibliographies and for the final drafts of your essays is to create full citations for the sources that you used. So I might just ask it, what is a full citation? Let's see what it says. Right away to go to MLA style. If you type that in a regular ChatGPT or Claude or other Gen AI, it wouldn't know to do MLA, so you need to tell it. Okay, so it's a complete entry in the works cited list that provides all the necessary information about the source. Good. This entry is essential for allowing readers to locate source material. Um, each entry typically includes specific core elements, such as the author, title, publication details, and sometimes additional elements. And then it kind of explains there. Good. All right, so let me ask it, how do I create a full citation? Okay, so it's asking me, yeah, you would look for all of this information. This comes directly from MLA. Not all of this is as important. The Probably the ones that show up the most for most sources are going to be author, the title of the source, which is usually going to be the article title. Um, and yeah, if it's an article, it's in quotation marks. Um, if it's an article, it usually has a container, which is like the journal or the newspaper or something that it came from. And then also publication date. Those are probably the big four. And it kind of gives us some examples of what a book looks like, giving us the asterisks indicate italics. Okay, good. So it gives us a sense of what it looks like. And you could ask it more specific questions too. Um, about multiple authors, for instance. Let's say, what if my source has three authors? Okay, good. So it tells us to put the first author's name and then et al., which is um, Latin for and others. Let's see. I just want to play around with it. What about two? I want to know, do I include both or do I also use et al.? I know that I should use both, but let's see what it says. Good. Sure. So you get a sense of that. And oh, now it's taking us into in-text citations, which I didn't ask for, but it's interesting. Okay. So now I'm going to do something. I'm going to go to the annotated bibliography directions And these sources should be created in MLA style, though this one is a little bit odd. I think I added this chapter two thing afterwards, so it's not quite right. But for most of them, this should be. So let's say, let me take the David Brooks one. I'm going to copy that into it. And let's see, is this correct? Yes. Hmm. Okay. I'm going to ask it about this. Let's see, are you sure the URL is still required in the most updated version of MLA style? Okay. All right. So we should apparently include the URL. Um, Let me ask it to do. Can you do an internet search to verify? Ah, so you see how it did that. It kind of went back on it. It said, well, actually, it says yes. This is what I love about the generative AI tools. They will go back on what they previously said, but they'll say that they're not going back on it. So it says, yes, including its citations is generally recommended. Okay. But you said it was, okay, generally required. Required is generally required is different than generally recommended. So now it's saying that it's not required. Again, just a small thing, but this is again showing where some of the information you need to just sometimes double check and continue to question, but most of the time it's pretty useful um, to explain these things. Good. So that gives us, it recognized that this source was done correctly. It tells us the information, reminds us to use italics and quotation marks for particular things. This can be helpful to you. And so you could also check your citations with this. Again, you would need to double check it, but it'll be able to kind of explain how things work, and it's pretty good. I'm going to try now this one because this is the one where I did the citation for a book, but then I just added the chapter title that we read afterwards in parentheses, which if I was citing the chapter, that's not how I would do it. I would just generally cite the entire book, and then I could mention the chapter because it's all written by one author, but I want to see what it says. Yeah, so it's suggesting that I, I, um, I cite the chapter by itself. Um, so this is one where you kind of have of the option. You could cite it as the chapter if you want to cite just that chapter in your works cited page, if that's the only one you're referring to. Um, or you could cite the entire book, and then in your citations, you would indicate where that information comes from. I just want to point out that that citation listed here this is not how you do it. You wouldn't just put that in parentheses afterwards. You would either cite the chapter almost like an article published within a book, uh, or you wouldn't include that. So um, that's some things that you can kind of play around with. And then after that, for instance, when you're writing your paper, um, you could then ask it for how to do an in-text citation, right? So Let me ask it this: what is the difference between an in-text citation and a full citation? Good. In-text citation gives the information, the immediate information, and what I like, by the way, about using this tool, the generative AI ChatGPT, is that it gives me my examples with the source that I've already been talking about. So it shows me the source that I just referred to. Um, and it says for the in-text citation, after the information, it would put the both of the author's last names and the page number after that. Or if it were introduced in the sentence, they would use the the page number at the end without uh, giving the author's names again. And then gives us the example of their book, how you could cite that. So this is good for asking questions too. Like, for instance, say like, well, why do we bother doing that? Or what's the difference between this? Or is this citation correct? Or things like that. Again, as always, I always have to put the disclaimer that you have to double check. You can't, you're still responsible for what you produce in your citations. So even if ChatGPT said you should do some weird thing, um, that's not an excuse for submitting that thing and saying, well, AI told me to do it. Still your responsibility. However, um, I find that using this type of tool can really enhance my understanding of a subject that I don't know because I can ask questions and go back and forth. And then I can, when I go to look things up in a more permanent source, I have a better understanding of what they're talking about. Uh, and so I recommend playing around with this when you're doing the full citations, which are included um, in your annotated bibliography. Now, just 1 second, I'll just show you that. Uh, this is the annotated bibliography directions, and I'm going to go to the sample. And you see for each source, it has the full citation. These ones um, are using the URL, um, which can be helpful. But as we noticed, as we finally arrived at, it's not actually required. Though it's recommended especially for sources that may be difficult to find. Um, really important if it's needed to verify the source. All right. So hopefully this video was helpful, but more hopefully that you find this tool helpful and you can learn a little bit more about MLA style through your own questions and interactions with it.